Alright guys, BLM here, back with a new video, and in this video, I guess we're talking about Big Brother 26. It's where, again, did not plan on making this video. There are a lot of rumors going around right now that there will be a winter/spring season of Big Brother, which, to be fair, I've been hearing about for a while. My assumption was always that it was going to be a celebrity season or even an all newbie season. However, there have been recent talks about the possibility of it being an all winners season. So with that news, I decided to, why not just break it down here and essentially just redo my old possibility of Big Brother all winners video. That last time I did it, it was, I believe, before the ending of BB21. But here we'll be running through each of the winners of the show and talking about if I think they would come back for a season like this, and talk about if I think a cast like this is somewhat feasible. Now again, these rumors are simply just rumors. I think these are even like less secured rumors than what I would typically make a video on. However, I just felt like when I heard this news, it was just an interesting enough concept to where I thought it would be fun to just revisit this topic once again. Before we actually run through the winners, I guess we should talk about some more general things first, largely in the fact that we are probably getting a winter/spring season of Big Brother. Again, these rumors have been out there really ever since the writer's strike had started. And again, I feel pretty confident in the fact that we probably are going to end up getting a season there. The question is, again, is the season actually going to be all winners or not? And I mean, considering the fact that I'm assuming the season's probably going to be on the shorter side of things, I don't think it's going to be a full-blown season. Again, I think an all-winner season is feasible, at least conceptually. I think if you are going to do an all-winner season of the show, that is the way to do it. Do it on a shorter season where you can get more of the bigger winners back. A lot of these people that would say no to a 100-day season, but would say yes to a shorter scale season. And even if you don't end up being able to get all the winners back, you could still do a Legends-esque season where I think 100% they can get a cast full of Big Brother legends that'll be willing to come back for a season that only lasts a month or so. So again, like, I think it is an interesting prospect. The fact that they are going for a winter/spring season without it being a celebrity season, as again, I do think it opens the path for there being an actual good all-star season here, but it also could just end up being newbies, considering the more reliable sources for this do state that if it doesn't end up being an all-winner season, it'll probably just fall back to being a normal newbie season, which again will feel a bit strange. Obviously very BB9-like, but again, let's just live in this world where it could possibly be an all-winner season. So again, we will run through all the winners, talk about who I think could come back, who I think would want to come back, who I think they actually would get back. So with that, let's start off obviously with Eddie. And Eddie's someone that I think they definitely could get back. I don't know if they would want him back, though, is the question. Where, I mean, I don't know how many people are really clamoring for an Eddie return, especially considering he played a game that wasn't the typical Big Brother that we know now from the US. Now, it would be this interesting dynamic of the fact that he never played the proper game. And beyond that, obviously, Eddie does have an interesting background. And again, I could definitely see a world where they would want him, though I'm not really 100% secure on that fact. But again, I do feel like he's the type of person that would probably say yes to this sort of season. Next up, we got Dr. Will. I don't think Dr. Will's saying yes even to this season. At least I'd be very surprised. It would very much be like Boston Rob appearing on Winners at War, to where, again, I didn't think it was possible, but it obviously ends up shocking me in the case that it did. I think this is probably even less feasible, though, in the fact that I don't know what Dr. Will has to gain from coming back outside of, again, getting paid a lot of money, but also does he even need that money? To where I know Will himself has said that if he were to ever come back to Big Brother, it would be for a celebrity season. And to be fair, I mean, this is essentially on the scale of a celebrity season. So again, who knows? I personally say no. I don't think Will would come back. But again, I think it's an interesting thing to at least consider here. Next, we got Lisa. I think Lisa would 100% say yes. She's always been clamoring to want to play again. The question is, would they bring her back? Now, I think demographic-wise, they might need to. Obviously, there are not many women winners in Big Brother, which is obviously a shame in its own right. But if they are going for all winners, they would obviously need a lot of the women winners that are there. And I feel like Lisa's someone that is so willing to play again that why wouldn't you just put her on? So again, I feel like she would be there if it is all winners. And kind of a similar thing going with June, where we know that June is someone that has been asked in the past to return. obviously for All Stars, I believe for BB14 as well. And I feel like production's always liked June. I mean, she obviously returned for a cameo in BB10, and while obviously there has been this like feud between her and Julie Chen, I do think for the most part, production does like June. And the bigger question is availability. Would she be able to do it? But considering the fact that she's been very open on Twitter about wanting to do it nowadays, I feel like she would be on, which I think would be a very interesting prospect. And considering also diversity mandate, I feel like she's someone that's kind of a necessity to get for the cast. Now, I will also state that while people have said that, oh, there's no way they do an all-winter season because they would have to hit diversity mandate and it would be unfeasible for them to hit that, I actually don't think they would enforce the mandate if they were to do an all-winter season, where obviously, yes, it is a mandate that is out there from CBS to have all their reality shows be at least 50% POC, but also it's enforced by CBS, the people that would be putting this season together. And I think if they really wanted to do an all-winter season, I think they would let it go and they would let this go through, especially if it's like close enough. Like, it isn't like this is a law that is in place that would need the approval of many different factions to get this go through. It's literally CBS that is making this, and it is CBS that put this rule in place. So, again, I think they would forgo it if they can get this cast together. But, again, obviously it is something to note here. Next up, you got Drew. And Drew's kind of in the Eddie ballpark of someone that I think they could get. I mean, Drew is someone that still talks about Big Brother. I mean, while many people might not know this, Drew does have a blog online where he posts his weekly thoughts on what's going on in Big Brother. Like, he's still clearly following the show. If I were to guess, I think he would play again, especially for a shorter season. The question is, do they want him? And I'm a bit unsure on that note, but again, if you have a very limited field of only winners, and if you are really trying to get this all-winner cast together, it would not be mind-blowing to see Drew on it. Next up, we got Maggie, and Maggie I'm just entirely unsure on. I don't know where Maggie is nowadays. I really don't know much about Maggie nowadays. I don't know if she would want to play again. I don't know if production would want her to play again. I never got the sense that production liked Maggie, and I think under any other circumstance outside of an all-winner season, Maggie would have no chance at returning. But again, for an all-winner season, who knows? I would still lean towards no, but again, if they are in need of women for their cast, then obviously Maggie is someone that you need to get. So who knows how that really plays out. Next up, we got Boogie, and I mean, we could just mark Boogie as a no, I think. I mean, I wouldn't think they would want to go that far in casting Boogie, where, I mean, obviously Boogie is known for all of his legal issues and now has a restraining order against Will, and all the stuff that's been going on with Boogie, I think just makes it pretty clear that I think they would try to avoid him nowadays, so I don't think he would make it on. Same thing goes with Dick, and obviously for different reasons, but I also think they would not put Dick on a modern season. First, his diagnosis of having HIV, I think probably makes it a bit tougher to put him in the house, especially when you have the health concerns of it potentially spreading, and really outside that, Dick has pretty much burnt all of his relationships with production, to where again, I don't expect them to see him back. And mostly the same with Adam. Now, Adam is one that I think is redeemable in the fact that if they were really, really, really wanting to do this all-winter season, I think they would bite the bullet and bring back Adam. But it's also rough, right? I mean, like, he is a winner that used the prize money to start a drug ring. I mean, this is not someone that they would want to promote. However, at the same time, they could want to promote his inspirational story, to where, again, now he's a motivational speaker. He's gone sober. He seems to be in a much better spot in his life, and I do wonder if like that would be enough to where they would at least consider him for an all-winter season, but my gut would say no. I don't think he would be someone that they would particularly want here. Next up, we got Dan, and I don't know about Dan either. I mean, he is obviously on The Traitors, which, I mean, obviously would have finished filming by that point. Actually, maybe would even air by the time this season would film, which, I mean, considering he went out of his way to do The Traitors, which, to be fair, is a much shorter time frame. Traitors only takes less than 2 weeks to film. Well, obviously, this would take at least a month. It's obviously a big time difference, especially for him to do it back to back. But again, I think there's at least a chance of Dan at this point, especially if they're willing to dish out the money. Again, a shorter season. I do feel like the path is there, but do I think it's particularly likely? Not really. I would still say he's someone that could possibly be on. Next up, we got Jordan. I don't know about Jordan, mostly in the fact that she didn't even want to return for BB13, only did so because of Jeff. Now, it's been years since then, where who knows if her mind has changed. I wouldn't be that shocked if it has, and she would be willing to play again, especially considering how important it is to her life. Again, kind of in a Boston Rob and Amber situation. mentioned, where they kind of felt like they had to say yes for a legendary season like Winners at War, considering how important the show was to their relationship. I can kind of see a similar role for Jordan, but I think she's one of these that, again, I'm a bit unsure of how exactly it would go. Next up, we got Hayden, who I think is pretty much a lock. I mean, I find it strange that Hayden hasn't been on reality TV again since Survivor, considering how loved he seemed to be at the time, but still, he was in the running for 22. Now, we don't know if something happened that caused him to be off of 22, but again, he was on many of the rumored casts, and again, it seems like he's still on production's radar. Again, for a season like this, I feel like he's pretty much a lock. I would be surprised if they did it without him, considering how limited the field is to begin with. So I feel like in this case, Hayden would pretty much be on. And the same thing goes for Rachel Riley. Now, I think a question mark with this is that Rachel did recently announce the fact that she is working for casting for Big Brother Canada, where this season would be filming around the time that the preseason for BB Can would start. Now, technically, the cast would already be put together and her role with that would probably be finished, but I think that's something to at least note here. But I still think Rachel, if not for that, is locked. I mean, I think she's 100% on. She would 100% do it. It's no question in my mind she would be on there. Ian, I'm a bit unsure. I don't know about Ian. I think Ian obviously had a bad experience with BB22. I don't know if he would want to play again, especially after not really even loving his experience the first time around and only really coming back to seemingly want redemption, only to not really get that. I'm not sure if Ian would play again. Again, I think if there was a season, this would probably be it. Again, an all-winner season, one where it's probably on a shorter time frame. But I do struggle here if he would say yes or not, but I would still kind of consider him a maybe for this. Next up, we got Andy, and I think Andy's pretty much a lock. Now, I would have questioned it a bit more until recently, but it does feel like they're kind of going out of their way to mention Andy a lot more. So he's kind of been mentioned more than you would think in recent history. Kind of makes me think that he's a bit more on production's radar. And again, 100% Andy would say yes. I mean, obviously he's been dying to play again. So if there is an all-winner season, I feel like Andy's pretty much a lock, as he seems like someone that's willing to play again, and he seems to be someone that's being referenced a bit more recently. So I do think he's on. I think the same thing of Derek. Again, I think there's no way they do an all-winner season without Derek. I mean, Derek is probably, of the big three of Will, Dan, and Derek, is probably the most receptive to playing again. He is the person that, while I think there's definitely an aspect of him that is scared to play again, as it could ruin his legacy, I still feel like he's someone that I expect to be back the most of those big three. Still, it's a little bit questionable on if he would do it or not. However, I just feel like there's no way they're going to do an all-winner season without him, where I feel like if he says no to this season, and if the likes of Dan and Will also say no, it just feels like a weird season to go through with if you don't have some of these like bigger winners. Though again, I think you'd probably say yes in this instance. Next up for Steve, and Steve is someone that for a while I would have said no. I mean, Steve's been pretty open, saying that he wouldn't want to play again after 17, and again, normally I would have just left it at that, but I mean, it's been years since then. And in those years, he's still been part of the community at points. I mean, he was helping out Sequester for a while. I feel like maybe Steve is more willing to play again than I was expecting. Now, the question is, would production want him? And again, straight up, it's kind of the situation where, like, how many more options do they have with all winners, where, again, he might make it on just simply due to that. So Steve's definitely someone that I'm not secure on in him wanting to play again, but he's at least someone that I would consider here as a possible returnee. Next up for Nicole Franzel, and again, for a while I would have said no, but at this point, I think she's pretty much a lock. I think if you're doing an all-winner season, I think you kind of need her there. Plus, also, more recently, she's talked about being more open in playing again. So, I think Nicole Franzel is a pretty near lock on this cast if it were to happen. And speaking of locks, we then have Josh Martinez, which, I mean, just jot him down right away. I think Josh is one of the bigger locks on the board. I don't know how they do this without him, unless there's like Challenge 40 filming at the same time and he's there. Even then, I think he would rather go on Big Brother once again than the Challenge, which he knows he's going to have multiple opportunities for down the road. I would expect him to be on Big Brother if the opportunity arose. And the same thing goes to Casey. Again, Casey is kind of taking a break from the Challenge. I mean, she just got engaged to Nani. However, again, I think this is one of these instances where I 100% think Casey will drop most things to go on Big Brother again. Again, she was supposed to be on BB22 alongside Josh. Obviously had to leave due to COVID. If I were to guess, I would say Casey definitely wants to play again. And really even beyond that, again, obviously this is a cast struggling with diversity, to where Casey obviously helps with that. So again, I think Casey's a pretty big lock there. Next up's Jackson. And I mean, I would would mostly say no. I mean, would I say there's a 0% chance? Probably not, but I think it's very unlikely to bring back Jackson at this point. At the time, I remember of 21, I did think there was a chance considering how much production seemed to like him. However, I think as time goes on, I think there's just better options to pick from, and considering also the fact that Jackson is not particularly loved, I think they would pretty much forgo him for this cast. However, again, going back to the locks, we got Cody. Again, I think Cody's 100% on. Cody's been pretty open to the fact that he would go and play again, especially for a shorter season. I think in this instance, again, it makes a lot of sense to put him on here, especially with so many unknowns. So again, I think he would pretty much be on. And the same thing mostly goes for Xavier. Now, Xavier is one that I could definitely see a world where he says no, but one, I think they kind of need him. I think this is another person that I don't know if this cast comes together if Xavier's not there. To where, again, while I think they would be willing to forgo the diversity mandate as a whole, I think they would still want to be close. And there are, again, not many POCs that have one Big Brother just in general. And also considering Xavier's connection to the cookout, which I think they would want a representative of. Again, I think 100% they would really, really want Xavier. I know Xavier's been a little finicky on if he would play again, kind of leaning towards no, but I do feel like for a short season, in a season where they'll probably pay them a good chunk to show up, again, I feel like Xavier would do it. And the same thing goes with Taylor as well. I think Taylor would also come back. To where, again, she's talked about how she didn't want to relive the experience so close to the last time around. However, again, she's been more open more recently in the fact that she would come back. And again, I think for a shorter season, all winter season, 100% she's back. So that those are the main seasons, and looking at the field of people that I look at as very likely to be on, it is 12 people, 6 men, 6 women. The men being Hayden, Andy, Derek, Josh, Cody, Xavier. The women being Lisa, June, Rachel, Nicole, Casey, and Taylor, which obviously 12 people is not really enough for a modern Big Brother season, typically. Now, I mentioned this before, even my first all winners video, that if you want to do an all winner season, the way to do it is do a smaller cast, do a celebrity style season. If this is a celebrity style season, the fact that it is a shorter season, they would obviously not need the full like 16 plus people on the cast. Now, again, I think 12 is probably a bit low, but again, these are just the people that I think are pretty locked in. And also, we don't know the 25 winner. For all we know, the person that wins BB25 will also want to come back and play again. But again, of the people I'm a bit unsure about, I could definitely see a world where Jordan says yes. I could see a world at this point where Dan might say yes. I could see a world where they could potentially put Drew. I could see a world they potentially put Steve. Ian might potentially say yes. Eddie might be on the table. Like realistically, even celebrity. If they wanted to go to celebrity winners, I think they could really get all 3 of the celebrity winners. I think all of them would be willing to play again in Marissa, Tamar, and Misha. Like 100%. I actually think this is somewhat viable, which is kind of the weird thing. Because again, I 100% thought for a while that there's no way this would happen, yet I think there's a possibility of it happening at this point. Now, again, I'm still not putting my money on it. I think more than likely the plans will fall through and this won't end up happening. But again, I think there's certainly a route for this to happen. I think there's enough winners that are blatantly interested, with enough that we also are a bit unsure about, with also other inroads to potentially make this happen as well. And even if this doesn't happen, again, I think you could very easily do a legend season. I think you can get some big names that wouldn't do a full-blown season, but would do a shorter season. Danielle Reyes, a major example of that. You could potentially get someone like a Vanessa Russo. You can maybe get someone like a Brittany. You could possibly even get some more recent people like a Tiffany or a Tyler to come on. You could even get Janelle and Kaser. It's like the path is certainly open. Like I do feel like if they wanted to make this a returnee season, they could 100% do so pretty easily. And even sticking to just the all-winner theme, again, I think it's possible. So again, I do think at the end of the day, these are very interesting rumors. I, again, do tend to believe that there will be a winter season of the show. Again, I felt like that's been the case for a while now. The question does come of, will it be returnees? And again, I'm not personally getting my hopes up. I do feel like there's just been so many times of there being a rumored Big Brother All-Star season only for it to turn out to be all newbies anyway. And I could definitely see this turning out to be that way. But again, I thought it was just a fun thing to run through all the winners and see if it was possible, which again, I actually do think it is. So with that, I guess those are my thoughts on these recent rumors on a Big Brother all winner season, to where obviously we're going to find out possibly later this year obviously by the beginning of next year on what exactly is going to be happening here. So if it does end up being confirmed to be a returning season, possibly I'll do more speculation videos on it. If not, then I'll obviously still cover whatever season eventually comes. So stay tuned for those things. But for now, that is the video. Thank you for watching.